Back in elementary school, I took in this poor little girl. I watched her grow up, watched the ugly duckling transform into a swan. But as time went by, I started to realize the love buried deep inside her was growing into something else entirely. I vaguely remember that taking in Chloe was a complete accident. It was a beautiful afternoon, and I was walking through Lincoln Park, not far from my house. Near a trash can by the North Pond, I saw a scrawny, grimy little kid standing on their tiptoes, digging through the garbage for God knows what. The kid was wearing a pair of busted-up sandals and clothes full of holes. They were so skinny they looked like a stick figure. A strong gust of wind could have knocked them over. After rummaging for a while, they pulled out a half-eaten, dirt-caked granola bar and were about to shove it in their mouth. "Hey!" I yelled, stopping them. The kid jumped, startled, then turned and just stared at me with wide, desperate eyes. They pointed a bony, claw-like finger at their open mouth, silently begging for food. I couldn't stand it. I'm a total sucker for this kind of thing. I pulled a pack of cookies from my pocket and handed it over. The kid flinched, refusing to take it from my hand, gesturing for me to toss it on the ground. After they devoured my cookies, the kids started following me. They kept a perfect 5-yard distance, matching me step for step. I'd glare back, but they wouldn't leave. A mess of tangled hair covered half their face, leaving just one large, startlingly clear eye to plead with me. I sighed. I'm powerless against that look. "Are you homeless or something?" I asked. The kid nodded, then immediately shook their head. That just confused me more. "So, why are you following me?" Their voice was a dry rasp, their lips chapped and cracked. After a long, stuttering pause, a few words squeezed out of their throat. "I can work." I didn't really see the connection between following someone and offering to work, but I figured they were trying to latch onto me, maybe looking for a protector. I crooked my finger, beckoning them closer. "All right, fine. From now on, you're with me. I'll look out for you." The kid hesitated, then nodded. I took their hand. It was all bone and felt impossibly small in mine, and tried to ignore the sour smell clinging to them. I led them back to my family's house in the suburbs. The moment she saw us, our housekeeper, Maria, let out a shriek. "Leo, what in God's name did you bring home now?" I held up the kid's hand. "This is my new recruit. I found them." The little kid chose that moment to repeat their mantra. "I can work." Adding another plate to the table wasn't a big deal, so the little kid ended up staying with us. First thing, I took them to the bathroom for a shower and generously gave them a set of my own clothes to wear. Cleaned up, they looked a lot different. A pale, gaunt face and thin arms emerged from my oversized shirt and pants. The hair was still long, hiding half their face. Their hands, which I now saw were covered in faint scars, nervously clutched the hem of the shirt. That one pleading eye shyly peeked at me. I scratched my head, then my back, and decided to share some of the snacks from the pantry. The kid might have been small, but they could really eat. That night at dinner, they put on a real show, polishing off 2 huge plates of pasta, all by themselves. Maria watched them, clicking her tongue in amazement. "You're a delicate-looking little thing, but you eat like a linebacker. What's your name, honey?" "Chloe," she mumbled. Then, after a pause, added a name that didn't make sense. "Pundy." I was confused. "Pandy?" "Like a panda bear." Maria shot me a look, then turned back to the girl with a pitying expression. "Oh, honey, so that's it. You're a girl, aren't you? Where's your mom?" "Mom had a boy. She didn't need me anymore." Maria kept asking gentle questions, pulling the whole story out of her. Finally, she pulled me into my room and shut the door. "Leo, I think she's telling the truth. It's a heartbreaking story. What should we do? Should we let her stay?" "If not," Maria continued, her voice soft, "I can call social services. At least they'd find a place for her." I was stuck on something else. She's a girl? But aren't girls supposed to be all dressed up and pretty, like princesses? "Oh, Leo," Maria sighed. "Most people in this world are just regular people. There aren't that many princes and princesses out there." I sort of understood. I nodded. Just then, we realized the little kid was standing right outside the door. Before I could say anything, she dropped to her knees, looking like she was about to press her forehead to the floor. I panicked and started stuttering. No, don't. "You don't want me?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "No, that's not it. We want you. Get up." I rushed to the door to pull her up, but she was rigid, refusing to move. On a crazy impulse, I dropped to my knees too, as if to return the gesture. Maria couldn't get either of us up and just stood there, wringing her hands. "Ay, Dios mío, what are you two doing?" We couldn't find any records for the little girl, so when we registered her for school, we gave her a new name, Chloe. Chloe was a true workhorse. She was always trying to do chores around the house, sweeping, laundry, cooking, you name it. She even learned to knit. She could stay busy from morning till night, making a pack mule look lazy. If she kept it up, Maria was going to be out of job. So, I figured the best thing was to get her into school with me. The tuition for the private elementary school wasn't cheap, but I had my own money, more than enough to cover her fees. I took care of everything for her: food, clothes, a place to live. Anything I had, I shared with her. After school, she loved to trail behind me, clutching the snacks I'd given her, going wherever I went. Her face was so small and thin it made her eyes look enormous. Her arms and the backs of her hand were crisscrossed with a network of fine, pale scars, and she always kept her hair swept over the left side of her face. Her eyes were constantly darting around nervously. At first, even the honk of a car horn would make her jump. She only seemed to relax when she was near me. She didn't talk much, just quietly clutched the little fox stuffed animal I'd bought her. Whenever I'd tease her, she'd just look up at me with those wide, innocent eyes. Chloe was terrified of thunderstorms. The sound of thunder was a nightmare she couldn't escape. The moment she heard the first rumble, she'd scramble into my room, curl up into a ball in the corner, her tiny arms wrapped around her bony knees, shaking uncontrollably, her quiet sobs barely audible. I couldn't bear to see her like that. Like I said, I'm a sucker. I'd sigh and call out, "Chloe, come on, get in the bed." She'd slowly crawl on a mattress, curling up at the very edge, leaving a chasm between us big enough to be the Mariana Trench. I'd roll my eyes. "Chloe, move over. How are you going to sleep like that?" Inch by inch, she'd scoot closer until her hands rested gently on my stomach. Her clear eyes would reflect my own face, the corners of her eyes red and marked with fresh tear tracks. I took her cold little hands and feet in mine, yawning. Okay, no more crying. I'm here. I've got you. It's all going to get better from now on." A few minutes later, I felt something wet on my cheek. "Ugh, what are you doing?" Chloe whispered timidly. "Leah, my dog, buddy. He used to lick my face when he wanted to be close to me." "Buddy," she hummed in confirmation, her tone turning sad. "My little yellow dog. I took care of him, but then he was gone." "What happened to him? Did he run away?" "They split him. Mom took half, and Dad took the other half. At night, when they were asleep, I'd sneak out and gather up his bones. I built a little mound of dirt and buried him there." She paused, thinking. "I made a lot of little mounds like that, for frogs and butterflies and spiders I found on the road that weren't moving anymore. Grown-ups always say you should be laid to rest. I wanted them to be at peace. I figured, maybe someday, when I'm not moving anymore, a kind person will find me and bury me, just like I buried the little animals." Her eyes were so clear, so bright, and she spoke about these heavy things in such a cheerful, matter-of-fact way that I had no idea how to respond. All I could do was let out a long sigh and hum a lullaby. She blinked a few times and finally drifted off, though tears still silently escaped the corners of her eyes. Chloe was like a newborn animal. Even in her sleep, she kept a tight grip on one of my fingers, as if for security. Well, so much for my sleep tonight. Damn mouth, always asking questions. Now look at you, too broken up to even think about sleeping. My sympathy and pity for Chloe made me double down on taking care of her. I bought her any snack or toy that caught my eye. I'm not great at comforting people. My go-to solution for her sadness was junk food and, occasionally, a hug to help her sleep. At home, Chloe would just stare at me with those big, curious eyes. She wouldn't be doing anything, just watching. I had no idea what was so fascinating. When I'd poke her cheeks, which were finally starting to get a little round, she'd sometimes suck on her thumb. She'd grab my hand and hug it to her chest like it was a stuffed animal, refusing to let go even if I offered her a real toy. In a soft, childish voice, she'd whisper, "Hold me. Cuddle. Don't go." My heart would just melt. Fine, whatever you want." She hated wearing dresses because of all the little scars on her body. She thought they made her look ugly. Maria and I took her to a dermatologist a few times and got some creams for her hands, but the rest we had to let heal on their own. She was terrified of being rejected, because rejection meant being abandoned. So, as a kid, Chloe was always incredibly well-behaved and obedient. She never cried or threw a tantrum. She just loved to follow me around, her hair in two little pigtails that bounced from side to side like a penguin when she ran. She'd insist I hold her hand to cross the street on the way to school. If a classmate stopped to talk to me, she'd hide behind my back, clutching my shirt and peeking out shyly. For Chloe, I was giving my all. Money, effort, everything I had, and anything I didn't have I'd find a way to get. I was a damn good big brother. Good food, plenty to eat, no shortage of snacks and toys, eating well, sleeping well, and she shot up like a weed. The results were amazing. Chloe slowly became much more cheerful. Her face grew brighter and plumper, making her look like a little princess. She got along well with her classmates at school. She wasn't so timid anymore, and her grades skyrocketed. but I still felt like she was a bit of a goofball. Because if she wasn't, why would she keep up her weirdest, most annoying habit? I'd wake up in the morning to a face full of drool. The wet, sticky feeling on my hands was enough to give me goosebumps. Chloe, you big goof. You slobber all over my face every single day. What is your deal? I'm talking to you, Chloe. Don't sit there. You're gonna break my ribs. Stop licking me. After finally prying her off me, she'd sit on a wooden chair, her eyes welling up with tears, looking at me as if I were some heartless jerk who'd just dumped her. Chloe, what are you looking at? I asked, getting up to put on a jacket. Her dark eyes darted around before she said in a choked voice, Leo, the kids at school say I'm your girlfriend. They're talking nonsense. What do a bunch of little idiots know? They just like to make stuff up. I looked at her. Do you think I act like that? She twisted her hands nervously, her head down, but her eyes looking up at me. Leo, do you, or don't you? Do I what? No, of course not. Don't be ridiculous. Remember, you are you. You don't belong to anyone. Got it. I understand, Leo. I walked over, intending to pat her head, but Chloe flinched instinctively, covering her head with her hands. Realizing it was me, she awkwardly straightened up. I settled for patting her shoulder instead. Tomorrow, I'll have Maria talk to your teacher. Those kids spreading rumors are out of control. If they have so much energy, they should go join the track team instead of picking on a little girl. Chloe didn't say anything else, just gave me a goofy smile. 2 little dimples appeared on her cheeks, and she made a little huff sound that was, I had to admit, pretty darn cute. Once she hit middle school, it was like Chloe's brain fully activated, wiping away any trace of her former goofiness. She was a year older than me, but since she'd started school late, we ended up in the same grade in high school. I didn't go to a private high school. My mediocre grades landed me in a decent public one. Chloe, on the other hand, with her stellar middle school exam scores, got into the best magnet school in the city. The contrast made me feel like a total NPC. In high school, she started to mature. Her still youthful face already showed the promise of the stunning woman she would become, and her personality grew much more composed in many ways. It's true what they say, girls change so much. The little girl who used to just trail behind me clutching a stuffed animal had now blossomed into an elegant young woman. All I could say about it was resigned. She's all grown up, but Chloe was still terrified of thunder. It was like her kryptonite, a fear she could never shake, even as she got older. Because of that, I didn't let her live in a dorm. Her bedroom was right across the hall from mine, and we usually left our doors unlocked just in case a storm rolled in and she needed to seek refuge. The thing was, she'd often sneak in when I was half asleep. If there was no thunder, she'd say she was afraid of the dark. If there was thunder, she was afraid of the thunder. Every time I tried to make her leave, her eyes would well up, and she'd beg me not to kick her out, promising she'd be quiet. And since I'm a total sucker, I never had the heart to actually force her to go. The result was that I'd wake up in the middle of the night with what felt like a super soft, life-size doll curled up against me, smelling faintly of her floral body wash. A scent that was, annoyingly, very pleasant. And I'd feel something moving against my face, making it all wet and itchy, causing my facial muscles to twitch. It got to the point where I could yell at her in my sleep. Chloe, what are you doing? Are you going to sleep or not? She gasped, startled. After a long moment of silence, she'd finally dared to speak. I'm sleeping. Her voice would be as quiet as a mosquito's buzz, but at least she'd stop her weird shenanigans for the rest of the night. This happened a few more times. It felt like she was testing my limits. I got so fed up that I started locking my door. But the next night, Chloe was knocking, crying about being scared of the dark, wailing so loudly you'd think I was murdering someone in there. After all these years, she knew me inside and out. She knew I'd never truly get rough with her. The worst I'd ever done was a light swat on her hand. Now that she was older, that didn't scare her at all. The second I'd crack the door open, the fake crying would stop, and she'd dive into my room like a running back. There was no stopping her. I'd resist, struggle, scold, get angry, even beg, but to Chloe, who knew my every weakness, it was all just a game. She was a master manipulator. She could read my face and know exactly how to respond. She'd even started making promises she had no intention of keeping. I was completely outmatched. It was maddening, and she still wasn't satisfied. She'd demand I at least show some emotion. What? You steal my space, you steal my pillow, you want me to sing you a lullaby, and now you want me to be happy about it. That would be nice. Get out. Chloe's magnet school was right next to my public high school. Both were close to home, just a mile's walk. She got out half an hour later than me, so I almost always ended up waiting for her by the school gate. I had to. If I went home without her, she'd start her dramatic wailing at night, giving me a massive headache. Her normal speaking voice was clear and melodious, like a songbird. But when she wailed, she sounded like a banshee, and she had the lung capacity to back it up. It was terrifying. Out in public, her personality was different from how she was at home. She had a cool, slightly aloof air about her that, from a distance, was actually quite impressive. Apparently, a lot of guys had asked her out, but she'd turned them all down. Some had resorted to secretly stuffing love letters into her backpack. One day, she unknowingly pulled one of those letters out of her bag. We just stared at each other, both of our faces a mask of shock. I was shocked that she was getting romantic and not even trying to hide it from me anymore. The nerve, the audacity. As the saying goes, an older brother is like a father. And while I wasn't technically her brother or her family, after all these years of friendship, I was at least half a father figure. Now, my daughter was about to be snatched away by some random punk. How could I not be heartbroken? My little girl, stolen away by some jerk. It's enough to make a father weep. Wait, I can explain. She was smart enough to clamp her hand over my mouth before launching into her defense. Some creep put in my bag. I didn't accept it. I pried her hand off my mouth. I believe you. I believe you. Now let me see it. What's it say? No way, Leo Miller. It wasn't written to you. Why would you read it? I puffed out my cheeks and tried to look angry. How dare you talk to your father like that? Just pretend it's for me, okay? It's not like I've ever gotten one. Let me have this. Hand it over, or you're not getting dinner tonight. She put her hands on her hips, her face full of defiance. Get lost. Since when are you my dad? Always sticking your nose in things. Pretend it's for me. You're such a clown, Leo, she shot back. And if you don't feed me, I'll just howl all night until you go insane. As she spoke, she tore the letter into tiny pieces and tossed them into a nearby trash can. I shook my head dramatically. What a shame. What are you shaming about? Shame on your own, but I just shook my head again. Such a foul-mouthed young lady. That's when she unleashed her signature move on my arm. A vicious, twisting pinch that made me yelp. You're always making fun of me. What about you, huh? No one's confessing their love to you, are they? I waved my hands dismissively. I'd rather not say. So that's a no, she crowed, twisting again. Oh, okay, you're right, no, nobody. Stop. A triumphant little smirk played on her lips. Good. With your garbage grades, if you don't start trying to pull them up, the only university you'll be attending is the university of your couch. I rubbed the fresh bruise on my arm, feeling dejected. Fine, then I won't go to college. I've got some money saved up. If I don't get married and don't have kids, I can probably stretch it to last my whole life. What about me? You? I shot her a disgusted look, feeling even more miserable. What? You plan on mooching off your old man for the rest of your life? You did it again, she shrieked as she pinched me once more. One Maya bonus level. Okay, I'm sorry. Sis, please stop. I sat at the dinner table, my face a mask of misery, staring at the purple marks on my arm while the perpetrator herself shoveled food into her mouth. A wave of sorrow washed over me. Chloe was getting more beautiful by the day. Bright eyes, perfect teeth, a flawless complexion, and delicate features. But she also talked with her mouth full. And as she was doing it, she reached over and stole the freshly peeled shrimp from my plate. I protested. I got pinched again. I surrendered. The sweet, obedient, kind-hearted little Chloe of the past was gone, replaced by Chloe, the legendary tyrant of the pinch. Some people are alive, but they're already dead inside. Dead from injustice. My grades were bad, and by senior year, they were an absolute dumpster fire. In a class of 1,000 students, I was ranked around 700 th. The previous year, you had to be in the top 600 to get into a decent state university. I had tried. I really tried to pay attention, but the second a teacher started a lecture, I was out cold, especially in math. The speed at which my teacher talked couldn't even compete with the speed at which I could close my eyes. Chloe and I were polar opposites. Her grades were phenomenal. The wall in our living room was covered with her academic awards, and being in the top 10 of her entire school was just a regular Tuesday for her. But her luck was terrible. In 10th grade, she competed in the National Physics Olympiad and placed 51 st. Only the top 50 got a pass on college admissions, basically guaranteeing them a spot at a top university. She was off by one place. She sulked about it for half a day, while I celebrated for half a day. My celebration ended when she heard me laughing and pinched me into submission. In 11th grade, she tried again. And again, she placed 51 st. No guaranteed admission. This time I didn't laugh, but I still got pinched. Her reason: she was in a bad mood, and the sight of me was annoying. Me. Man face-palming even without the automatic admission, Chloe's regular grades were more than enough to get her into the prestigious Redwood University. The competition was just a shortcut. She barely seemed to study, but her math skills were insane. She hardly ever reviewed vocabulary, but she could remember English words after seeing them once. She didn't spend much time on chemistry, but she could derive formulas from scratch. Chloe was just too brilliant. Once her own college applications were sorted, she started methodically tutoring me every night in all 6 subjects. Even though one of her AP subjects was different from mine, she just read the textbook for a few days, looked up some stuff online, and mastered it. The intelligence gap between people can be like the difference between the base of Mount Everest and its summit. I was at the bottom, gazing up at the genius soaring in the sky. And a genius she was. She'd break down problems that made me break out in a cold sweat, explaining them with terrifying ease, and still have time to assign me homework. Well, I didn't want to do it. She'd smack my palms with a ruler. She even bought a 3-foot-long wooden dowel. If I slacked off, I'd get a reward. From that day on, I became a model student who loved his homework. Under her tireless tutelage, I became much younger, behaving as meekly as a grandchild. Her temper, however, got much shorter. Sometimes she'd just stand there staring at me with a look of disbelief, as if she couldn't comprehend how a human brain could produce such a stupid question. In her long and successful academic career, I was her only failure. Somehow, Chloe miraculously dragged my grades across the threshold for a 4-year university, pulling my rank up from 600th to 500th, then 400th, then 300th, until on my final SATs, my score was good enough to rank me 99th in my school. My final score was a 1450, enough to get into a decent public university. I could finally breathe. It was all thanks to General Chloe. She was the MVP. I was just the guy who got carried. Chloe scored a 1580. She was 3rd in the state. The admissions office from Redwood University had called her before the scores were even officially released, and she'd already picked her major. Chloe filled out my college applications for me. I had no idea what to major in or where to go, so she took charge and handled everything. For the next 2 months of summer vacation, she worked as a tutor while I got a job at a fried chicken place. One night, she came into my shop to order food. Our eyes met, and we shared a knowing smile. When a manager wasn't looking, I turned her $9.99 chicken combo into a feast fit for a king, piling on so much extra chicken it was ridiculous. We ate until we were stuffed, and she took the rest home. In a word, shameless. That summer after graduation, I opened a bank account for her and deposited about $20,000 into it, a combination of her scholarship money, competition prize money I'd been saving for her, and the allowance I'd given her over the years. She didn't want to take it first, but after a stern lecture from me, she reluctantly accepted. She was an adult now. She needed to have her own life. I started to intentionally put some distance between us. She sensed something was wrong, but remained silent. Time flew, and soon it was the first day of college. I drove her to the gates of Redwood University, nagging her the whole way. I was worried she wouldn't eat enough, or stay warm, or sleep well. I worried about everything, but eventually we had to say goodbye. Chloe kept her head down, not saying a word. But just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my arm tightly, as if she'd summoned all her courage. Can we rent an apartment, Leo? I don't want to live in the dorms. I won't see you if I live in the dorms. I want to be together. I try to play it off with a joke. Come on, you're a grown-up now. What's next? You get married, and you want me to live with you too. I gently but firmly pried her hand off my arm. Look, if you need anything, just text me. My university isn't that far from here. What are you worried about? I patted her on the head reassuringly. She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. I'm going now. See you around. I waved and walked away. She just stood there, rooted to the spot. When I got into the Uber, I looked back and saw her still standing in the same place, her hair falling over her face, looking as forlorn as an abandoned child. It was only when I saw a student volunteer in a red shirt walk up to help her with her luggage that I finally felt a sense of relief. I told the driver my destination, and we pulled away. Later that day, after unpacking everything in my own dorm room, I lay on my bed. My phone was buzzing nonstop with messages from Chloe. I looked at the 99+ notification icon for a long time before typing out 4 words. Okay, good night. The phone buzzed again with her reply. I didn't look. I set it aside, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep. A heavy feeling settled in my chest. My mind raced, but all my thoughts eventually dissolved into a single, long sigh. I didn't fall asleep until late that night, and when I did, my sleep was restless, filled with fragmented dreams that pieced themselves together into something unforgettable. I dreamed of my mother, then my father. They were screaming at each other, blaming each other for their own affairs. After the divorce, I stood between them, a burden they were both desperate to offload. The loveless union of their 2 powerful families hadn't produced a child of happiness, but a continuation of their mutual resentment. The court gave custody to my father, but my stepmother was cruel. From day one, she told me, a little animal like you unloved and unwanted, would have been better off drowned in a toilet at birth. Then she'd add, "No, that would be a mess for us. You should just find a rope and do everyone a favor." I thought if I just endured it, my father would eventually show me some love. I waited for 2 years. What I got instead was a new baby half-brother and even more abuse. I tried to go to my mother, but she had a new family. She held a tiny baby boy in her arms, and her face lit up with the same sweet smile my father now reserved for his new son. A smile that was never for me. When my mother saw me, she frowned and warned me not to upset her precious baby. I nodded dumbly, feeling like a sewer rat, greedily trying to soak up the warmth spilling from someone else's happiness. "Leo, I'm sorry," she said, her voice cold. "But you're an extra. I can't give you a mother's love. You're not the child I wanted. You've seen enough. Go now. I'll pay the child support every month. Go back to your father, and don't bother my new family again." I walked home in a daze and collapsed with a high fever that night. I burned for a day and a night, nearly going into shock before they finally took me to the hospital, probably afraid I'd die on them. I was in the hospital for 3 days. No one came to visit me. I was the extra. And in that sterile, lonely room, something in me snapped. I had an epiphany. If that's how it was, then I wanted money. They were people who cared about their reputations. People that are terrified of their dirty secrets getting out. For powerful families, appearances are often more important than life itself. I made a scene. I made a huge, relentless scene. I screamed and threatened and didn't stop until I got what I wanted, a settlement of $3 million in a condo downtown. My future was secure. The price? I just pretended I didn't have a family anymore. We would be strangers for the rest of our lives. I used that money for school and living expenses. I hired the kind and honest Maria from a housekeeping agency. And eventually, I found and raised Chloe. When I first saw Chloe, it wasn't just pity I felt, it was recognition. I saw my own past in her eyes. By helping her, wasn't I also helping that lost little boy I used to be? The only difference was that I was luckier. I could at least demand money to build a decent life. But now she was grown up. She was becoming more and more brilliant, which only made me feel more inadequate, more mediocre and ordinary. I know what I am. A rat spends its whole life seeing nothing but filthy sewer pipes, while a fox can run free across a vast, open field. Real life isn't a fairy tale. The higher she climbed, the more I would become a burden, a dead weight holding her back. Stories of people abandoning their less successful partners are a dime a dozen. It was a gamble I couldn't afford to take. I didn't want to be that pathetic little rat, to have my fate held in someone else's hands. The world is so big. I want to crawl out and see it for myself. So this whole love thing, it's better to just forget it. I don't even know what love is. How can I promise it to someone else? In the haze of my dream, I saw Maria again. Her life had been hard, too. She was a single mother from a rural town. Raising her own daughter had taken everything she had. She came to the city to work as a housekeeper to save a little extra money for her daughter's future. Her daughter eventually settled down in the city and had a son of her own. Maria was about to quit to go help with her grandson, but she couldn't bear to leave us, so she shuttled back and forth between the two households until we graduated high school. In her free time, she'd gleefully show me pictures of her grandson, the wrinkles on her face smoothing out as she smiled like a proud peacock. You know, for people like us, country folk, we don't have much money, but we can still live happy lives, she'd say. When you get to be 50, 60 years old, all you really want is to have your grandkids around you. No matter how much you suffer out in the world, when you come home and a little one calls you grandpa or grandma, well, that makes your whole life worth it. You can't buy that with all the money in the world. I gave her a big check for her grandson's college fund. She tried to refuse, but I insisted. She took my hand and squeezed it, smiling. "Leo, you're a good boy. You have a good heart. And that little Chloe, she's a wonderful girl. You two together, it's like a storybook romance, growing up together. You have a real foundation." When I first saw little Chloe, oh, she was so dirty and smelly like a little ball of soot. But you weren't disgusted at all. You invited her into your home. It's been so many years. I've seen it all. You too. You're made for each other. I just laughed it off, but the more I demurred, the more she insisted, telling me she just wanted to see me find a happy ending. As I dreamed, tears started to fall without my permission, soaking my pillow before slowly drying. But a pillow can dry. Can tears flow back? No. Like the past, they can never go back. The past is a constellation of starry points, streaking through your mind like meteors. And as they streak by, somehow, you find you've grown up. It's only when you're grown that you realize the stories and fairy tales are all lies. The beauty never marries the poor beast. The prince never marries the destitute Cinderella. It's all fake. I started to deliberately give Chloe the cold shoulder. At first, she'd text me about everything. Waking up, going to class, leaving class, what she was eating. But when my replies became single words sent half a day later, she got the hint. Her messages became less frequent. Then one Friday night, she sent a meme, followed by a tentative question. Leo, are you seeing someone? I saw the message and decided to cut things off for good. A quick, clean break is better than a slow, painful one. Yeah, it's getting serious, I typed back. A long time passed before she replied. But dating someone? Yeah, found someone I really like. She went silent for 5 or 6 days. But the following Saturday, she suddenly asked me to meet her. I was going to refuse, but she insisted, saying it was a way to say a final goodbye to the past. I understood what she meant. Dragging out wasn't doing either of us any favors, so I agreed. The farewell was to take place in the living room of a secluded lake house. She said it belonged to a college friend who was letting her borrow it. She was wearing a white blouse with a long skirt. Her makeup was done perfectly, and a small flower was pinned in her hair. She looked serene and beautiful. She had cooked an entire feast, a table full of impressive dishes that smelled amazing, but I had no appetite. Chloe just kept watching me with a wide, almost predatory smile. It was unnerving. I had a bad feeling she was up to something. I didn't dare drink the red wine she poured, afraid she'd added a little surprise to it. Halfway through the meal, Chloe pulled a small red gift box from her purse, her eyes looking a little red. Leo, I'm happy you found someone. And I've decided to accept someone else's proposal, too. I'm going to wear the ring he bought for me. She opened the box. Inside lay a pair of silver rings. I was silent for a long time, my throat too tight to speak. That's great. Really? She pressed, her voice sharp, her eyes locked on mine as if searching for something. I couldn't meet her gaze. I looked down at my plate like a stray dog. Yeah, good. Well, Leo, thank you for all these years of taking care of me. It's a shame our paths are diverging. She raised her wine glass to me. I felt compelled to raise mine and drink. She acted heartbroken. Eventually, she stood up and walked over to the heavy front door of the house. She stood with her back to me, her head bowed, and I could see her shoulders shaking as if she were secretly wiping away tears. Her sobs grew louder. I sat in silence, unable to say a word, just staring at the table. After a few moments, a strange heat began to build in my stomach. My vision started to swim. The image of Chloe across the room split into two. It's so hot. What did you give me to drink? I struggled to my feet, stumbling, catching myself on the edge of the table, panting heavily. She whirled around. Her eyes were red, and she looked surprised, but she quickly composed herself and walked slowly toward me. What's happening? I don't know. Her voice was getting more frantic, with a hint of a sob, as she pressed herself against my arm, her soft body a searing distraction. I swallowed hard, trying to push her away, but my limbs felt weak. The wine. There's something wrong with the wine. Oh my God, my friend gave me that wine. I had no idea. What do we do? Her hands clamped onto my arm like two powerful vices holding me in place. Leo, are you okay? She whispered, her warm breath ghosting over my ear. I felt like I was about to overheat and explode. Chloe, go check the living room. See if there's an antidote or something. Chloe quickly let go and started rummaging through the cabinets. Before I could even catch my breath, she tossed a small black object that looked like a flashlight onto the floor. Then a second one, and a third. I almost lost it. What the hell are those? Did you buy them in bulk? Without looking up, she answered, tasers. I was already feeling sick, and now my heart sank. I asked cautiously, Chloe, maybe you should check the kitchen. She didn't say anything, just walked silently into the kitchen. The moment she was out of sight, I hobbled as fast as I could toward the front door. I finally reached it, grabbed the handle, and twisted. It wouldn't turn. Of course. My heart went cold. I slumped against the heavy door, sliding down to the floor in defeat. Chloe was already standing in the living room again, just a few feet away. One hand was over her mouth, and in the other, she held one of the tasers. Her eyes looked wide with faux helplessness. Is the door stuck again? It's always breaking. I told my friend to get it fixed, but she's so lazy. What are we going to do, Leo? Are we trapped in here? I knew what she was doing. I gave up, to beg for mercy, and for my own sake, I had to tell the truth. Chloe, I'm sorry. I don't have a girlfriend. I made it all up. It's because I've been useless my whole life. I need someone to force me to study, but I'm the first one in line for dinner. I'm lazy, I'm almost 20, and I've accomplished nothing, just floating through life. I just feel so pathetic. I don't think I deserve you. I'm sorry. I was too scared to accept how you feel. I'm a coward. The words tumbled out of me, my heart a raging bonfire of heat and misery. It was an agony of fire and ice. She stood frozen for a moment, then slowly walked over, knelt down, and wrapped her arms around me, holding me tight. Her voice trembled. How could you say that, Leo? Whether you're poor or rich, smart or foolish, brave or cowardly. In my eyes, you are one of a kind. You are you. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, and no one has the right to ask you to. All those famous people, the billionaires, the so-called successful ones, they're all the same to me. They're just other people. They have nothing to do with me. But you, Leo, you're different. In my heart, you've always been my moon, the one I've always loved, always wanted, always hoped to have. I was stunned into silence, letting her gently lick away the physiological tears that had welled up in my eyes. But just as I was about to speak, a sharp, electric pain shot through my body, zapping my brain. I was being electrocuted so badly, I nearly started breakdancing on the floor. Damn it, Chloe. Your stupid taser is still on. I'm going to be launched into orbit. Chloe and I got together. The first thing she did was immediately confiscate my phone and demand all my passwords. She went through everything with a fine-tooth comb, confirming that my new girlfriend was a complete fabrication. Then she lectured me for 3 days straight. I almost wasn't allowed to eat dinner. After we made up, she confessed she never imagined I'd push her away for a reason as ridiculous as feeling insecure. She said I was one of a kind, but not in a good way. The second day, we were together. We went apartment hunting. The third day, we moved in. By the fifth day, she was demanding I buy her a promise ring. She tried to act all aloof about it, claiming she didn't really care and was just testing me. In reality, she was trembling with nervousness, her fingers spread wide to make it easier for me to slide the ring on. The silver rings from the lake house, it turned out, were borrowed from a friend whose family owned a jewelry store, all part of her elaborate ruse to trap me. Our life together was simple and sweet. We rarely fought, and when we did, we made up quickly, both of us terrified of hurting the other. Everything was great, except for my back. Every night, she'd toss her head and say, "All right, let's go to the bedroom." It was going to be the death of me. Later, in our third year together, junior year of college, she decided to take a year off to start business. I was worried about her struggling alone, so I took the year off too to be with her. And we struggled. We really did. We were up before dawn every day, scouting locations, setting up the office, chasing investors, hiring employees, handing out flyers, and hustling for clients. I didn't know anything about business. I have zero talent for it. I could only be there for her, doing the grunt work. We'd work late into the night, and I'd have to practically drag her to the makeshift bed we'd laid out on the floor just so she would get some sleep. She loved to lie next to me, resting her head on my stomach. I wasn't fat, but I had a little bit of a gut, which made a comfortable pillow for her. Even in her sleep, she wasn't quiet, making little whimpering sounds like a cute animal. If I stroked her hair, she'd respond in her sleep. We kept this up for 6 months before things finally started to turn around. In the middle of it all, I sank my entire life savings into the company, the whole $3 million. My nest egg, it hurt to think about, but then Chloe would kiss me a couple of times and the pain would vanish. Her happiness was all that mattered. What's the point of having a lot of money anyway? It's just currency. You can't take it with you when you die, and if you live like a miser, what's the point? As long as you have enough to live on, that's all that matters. We spent the first 6 months building a solid foundation, and in the second half of the year, the business took off. Our profits went from tens of thousands to millions. The next year, it hit 8 figures. Chloe became a millionaire before she even graduated college, and I, by association, became a millionaire's boyfriend. She tried to transfer half her shares in the company to me. I refused. All I wanted was my original investment back, so I could use it to marry her one day. Using her money to marry her just felt weird. For this, I got another lecture. I swear, I'll never understand her. Grandpa, what happened next? I leaned back in my soft armchair, lost in memories of the past. What happened next? Well, after we graduated from college, I proposed to her. We got our marriage license soon after. I'll never forget the moment I slid the wedding ring onto her finger. Chloe just broke down, sobbing like a child. This strong, resilient girl. She hadn't cried through all the hardships of her childhood. She hadn't cried through the struggles of building a business from nothing. But here, in a moment of pure happiness that was all her own, she could finally let herself weep. All the pain and sorrow, the bitterness and the struggle, it all ended with that flood of tears. She shed her last tear of sadness and her first tear of joy. I didn't cry. It would have been embarrassing. Okay, fine. Maybe I just got a little dust in my eyes. Time kept moving. Soon, we had our own house. We had beautiful wedding photos on the wall. We had the product of our love, our children. Slowly, the kids grew up. We grew old. Our backs began to stoop. Time wore away so many things, but it could never fade a love as true as ours. Even on her deathbed, she held my hand in a vice grip, terrified of me leaving, even for a second. In my eyes, she was always that little girl who never grew up, the one who followed me around, begging for treats. Even when her face was etched with wrinkles, even when time had stripped away her youthful beauty, even when she was so old that she spoke in the babbling whispers of a newborn, her words no longer clear. What did any of that matter? She still loved to curl up in my arms. I would close my eyes and listen with my heart to the deep, endless love in her murmurs. And just like that, bathed in the soft sunlight, our fingers intertwined, she passed into the twilight of her life with a smile that was a little shy, but filled with absolute happiness. So I put on a serious face and said to my granddaughter, in the depths of my memory, there's a wedding photo that will never fade. It will always shine brightly. My dear child, don't let materialism or insecurity blind you. Take my blessing and go taste the sweetness of love for yourself. Oh, and by the way, I added, be careful. Don't let some punk with a fast car sweep you off your feet. But that's the same thing Grandma used to say. Grandpa, you're such a dork. The end.